Today, I'm going to show you how to set up a comic or a manga page using the digital art software Clip Studio Paint. If you are not a CSP user, do not worry because this information is universal and can be used in programs like Photoshop, Metabang, and Krita. If you work traditionally, this information will also be useful because many brands of comic book paper contain blue guidelines and print margins by default. Whether you are printing or posting your work digitally, understanding how to set up your page is essential if you plan on creating comics professionally. By using these margin lines correctly, you can keep your pages looking clean, consistent, and eligible for future print opportunities. To begin, there are three main concepts you will need to understand: safe area, which is typically indicated by a blue color, trim lines, which is typically indicated by a yellow color, and bleeds, which is typically indicated by a red color. In Japan, these margins are known as Atari. The safe area, also known as the live area or Hanman in Japanese, is where all of your artwork and text will be placed. Nothing inside of the safe area will be cropped or cut off during the printing process. If you want to create a full page bleed, your panel borders should extend to the end of the live area or to the bleed line. If you do not want a full page bleed, then you don't need to do this. The gutter, also known as the nodo or no-do area in Japanese, is considered a dead zone. You can think of this as the spine of your book. If you have never bound a book before by hand, basically artwork and text can be obscured or obstructed when the pages are combined together. In traditional manga, panels or artwork often end at the nodo line in the center of the spine. The only exceptions are with two-page spreads or splash pages / full-page bleeds. The trim line, also known as the tachikiri-sen in Japanese, indicates where your page should be cropped or trimmed before posting or printing. It's important to remember that every printer is different, so a little more or a little less than you expect may be cut. This is why it is so important to never go beyond the live area or extend your art all the way to the outer edge of the bleed line. Never stop drawing at the edge of the trim line or the inner edge of the bleed. Otherwise, you may end up with missing portions or important information cropped out. The bleed is the outermost limits of your page. These are great for instances where you want your artwork or your speech bubbles to break out of your panels. You need to be very careful though. You never want important art or text in this area because it could be cut off. Now that you know the basics, you can apply these concepts to your own work. If you are working traditionally, I highly recommend using a paper brand like the Leader. You will notice each piece of paper contains the margin lines we previously discussed. It is important to note that margin lines are different for different publishers, but this is a good starting point. Take a look at your shelf. Most English translated manga tend to be around 5 inches by 7 inches for most publishers. There are some exceptions, like Viz Media, who uses around 6 inches by 8 inches. If you are using Clip Studio Paint, you can manually set your margin values if you know them in advance. If you are working with the publisher, they will tell you what to use. If you are not working with the publisher, selecting one of these presets is fine in most cases. I do want to make a note that for some of the Japanese ones, like this preset for Weekly Shonen Jump, the margin lines are accounting for the magazine size and the Japanese tankobon size, not the English release. I didn't know this at first, and I crashed out when my pages weren't 5 inches by 7 inches. When you are ready to export your pages, head to File, Export Single Page, or File, Export Multiple Pages, Batch Export. The first thing you want to do is make sure Split Spread Pages is selected, unless you are exporting a 2-page spread. Even then, some publishers ask for the 2-page spreads to be separate files, so it isn't the end of the world if you choose to split them now. Next, you want to make sure For Comic is selected under Process and Scaling to preserve your text quality and prevent your screen tones from looking weird. Lastly, you'll want to look at this section called Export Range under Output Image. By default, it is set to all pages, which means it will export the full page. You can change this to crop the trim marks or crop the bleed marks. Let's take a look at what all three of these options look like with a sample page. In most cases, publishers will ask for the full file so they can crop the pages themselves. It's also good to save the Clip Studio Paint file in case a different publisher asks you to slightly change the margin numbers. If you plan to just post your work online, you can select one of these two options so you don't have a ton of dead space around your pages. It should now look closer to how you imagined it. Hopefully you were able to get some value out of today's video. If you did, make sure to leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below telling me what video you would like to see next. I would like to give a special shout out to ArtCrumbs for writing this amazing article on global comics that I referenced for today's video. I can leave a link for that as well as a link to other useful resources down in the comment section and description box below. Remember, you can further support me by following me on Twitter, commissioning me on VGen, or purchasing one of my Manga Maker panel templates on Ko-fi. I also invite you to join my Manga Maker community on Discord. As always, keep creating everybody. I will see you all in the next one.